Are nightmares really just dreams, or are they echoes of something else? For centuries, whispers clung to the edges of forests, tales spun by shivering peasants around crackling fires. They spoke of creatures, not beasts, not quite human, but something profoundly other. Let's be honest, haven't you ever felt a prickle of unease when venturing deep into the woods? A sense that you're being watched? These weren't your average woodland wanderers. These were the wild women. Forget the grandest oaks, the oldest pines. These weren't associated with towering majesty. No, their domain was the tangled undergrowth, the damp, shadowed spaces where sunlight struggled to reach. Think thorny bushes, moss-covered logs, the scent of decaying leaves, a place decidedly unpleasant. Then there were the Selige Jungfern, the blessed damsels. Imagine this, flowing white robes, utterly incongruous with the hairy, wild existence they were supposed to embody. Seriously, a ghostly apparition draped in silk and linen. It's baffling, isn't it? These weren't just ghosts, they were revenant returning from some forgotten realm. They haunted the Tyrolean hillsides, appearing as ethereal figures, offering medical herbs and, bizarrely, dispensing agricultural advice. Friendly gestures from, well, something decidedly not friendly. It's a strange paradox, isn't it? These creatures, supposedly aloof and dangerous, were offering help, like a mischievous trickster, perhaps. They'd hire themselves out as maids, sharing knowledge of potent herbs and occasionally giving blunt advice about planting seasons. But don't get too comfortable. The stories always hinted at a darker side. And the children, oh, the children. Across Germany, a chilling pattern emerged. The wild women and their hairy, hulking counterparts. The wild men had a disturbing fondness for snatching infants. Just taking them, no explanation, no remorse, just a terrifying instinct. Let's talk about the wild men. Picture this, a hulking figure emerging from the shadows, covered in hair, often with a hunched back and a monstrous face. Not your charming woodland sprite. These were nightmares made flesh. They weren't the biggest, strongest creatures, but they were undeniably unsettling. They weren't associated with the grandest trees, but with the underbrush. Now about the Selige Jungfern, these weren't just terrifying, they were peculiar. They lacked the obvious marker of wildness, the naked body covered in hair. Instead, they wore beautiful, flowing white robes, a stark contrast to their unsettling nature. It's like they were deliberately trying to disguise themselves to appear harmless, but appearances, as they say, can be deceiving. And here's a truly bizarre detail: these creatures kept stables of animals in subterranean caves. Seriously. A whole stable of animals hidden away in the darkness. They treated these creatures as if they were their responsibility, protecting them from, well, from what, it's unclear. But the most consistent trait, the one that connected all these variants of wild folk, was their overwhelming desire for human love. It wasn't about power or territory or even survival, it was about love. An obsessive, almost frantic craving for the affection of mortal men. Think about it. A creature capable of immense brutality, of terrifying displays of power, yet driven by a relentless, almost pathetic yearning for human connection. It's a deeply unsettling combination, isn't it? It's as if their monstrous nature was a byproduct of their desperate need for acceptance. The psychological explanation, according to some, is chilling. Nightmares, those vivid, unsettling dreams that leave you feeling drained and disoriented, are often filled with a sudden shift from the monstrous to the sexual. It's a primal fear, a glimpse into the dark corners of the subconscious. Could these creatures be born from those very nightmares? A manifestation of our deepest anxieties, given form and terrifying reality. And the wild men, they weren't just about brute force. They were obsessed with lust, with a predatory desire for women. Storytellers, particularly during the Middle Ages, were understandably cautious. The Inquisition wasn't exactly welcoming of tales about demonic figures engaging in sexual activity. So the accounts of the wild men's lascivious tendencies were often deliberately downplayed, omitted entirely. It was a survival tactic, a way to avoid attracting unwanted attention. But the truth remained, the wild man in folklore was frequently depicted as an oppressive, lascivious incubus, a nightmare figure intent on violating the sleeper's privacy. It's a disturbing reflection of the era's anxieties about male sexuality and the perceived threat of demonic influence. Let's go back to the wild women for a moment. They weren't just seductive, they were deceptive. They'd appear as glamorous young maidens, luring unsuspecting men into their clutches. Then, with a sudden vicious act, a shocking betrayal, they'd reveal their true, monstrous nature. In Sweden, they were known for their sudden whirlwinds, a dramatic and terrifying display of transformation. And in Franche-Comté, they lured their lovers into the thickets, driving them to madness or death. It's a game of illusion, a carefully constructed deception designed to trap and destroy. Consider this: when these creatures were revealed, they weren't the glamorous figures they'd presented themselves as. They were shrunken, with sagging breasts dragging on the ground, a grotesque parody of beauty. It's a stark reminder that appearances can be utterly misleading. The wild women, like the wild men, were often associated with the church's demonological vocabulary. Lamia, the child-devouring demon from Greek mythology, was equated with these creatures. The church, in its attempts to combat witchcraft, blurred the lines between demonic entities and human women, particularly older women with physical deformities. It's a chilling example of how fear and superstition can distort reality. But here's the really unsettling part: the belief in these creatures didn't simply fade away. Even as enlightenment spread and witch trials diminished, the fear persisted. People continued to tell stories of these beings, attributing their actions to demonic influence. In 1691, a young man in Sweden was accused of having a sexual relationship with a skagra, a wild woman, and sentenced to death. It wasn't the act itself that was condemned, but the connection to a demonic entity. And even later, in 1701, another trial unfolded in Sweden, this time focusing on a similar accusation. The fear hadn't vanished, it had simply shifted its form. So what does it all mean? Why these persistent tales of hairy, seductive creatures lurking in the shadows? Are they simply the product of folklore, of the human tendency to create monsters to explain the unknown? Or are they something more, something rooted in our deepest fears, our anxieties about sexuality, and our primal connection to the wilderness? Perhaps they are a reflection of our own inner demons, given form and terrifying reality. A reminder that the darkness within us can sometimes manifest in the most unexpected and unsettling ways. Do you ever feel like something is watching you from the woods? Like the shadows hold secrets you're not meant to know? Because honestly, isn't it a little terrifying to think that maybe, just maybe, those stories aren't entirely made up?